Hi, it's Tuesday, and we're glad you are with us. Again, if this is helping you, tell your friends, and we'd love to be part of their life as you have let us be part of yours. We are talking about the resurrection story in Luke. Now, the interesting thing about Luke is Luke tells us about the women going to the tomb but finding the empty tomb, Peter going to the tomb and finding an empty tomb. He doesn't tell us about anybody seeing the resurrected Christ until the road to Emmaus. Cleopas and his friend are walking from Jerusalem to Emmaus, overcome by all that they have seen, the death of Jesus, the burial of Jesus, trying to make sense of it when Jesus joins them on the road. They don't recognize him. They're talking about the things that have happened. Jesus says, "What things?" And they are beside themselves. Are you the only one in Jerusalem who doesn't know what's going on? And they tell Jesus about his own death. They tell Jesus about his own burial. They tell Jesus about how all of his friends are really, really sad. And then Jesus says, "Didn't you know?" And he preaches from the entire Scripture. Luke says he preached from the law and the prophets. That is the entire Old Testament he preached. Told the story from the very beginning of time until that moment when Jesus is walking with them. You know, one of the things that frustrates us about Jesus is we always think he started at Bethlehem. He didn't. He's part of the creation. He's part of the entire redemptive story of Exodus. He's part of the Father's relationship with Israel. He's part of all of that. So to understand the death of Jesus, the resurrection of Jesus, you have to understand the entire story of salvation that God's been working since the very beginning of the Bible. You have to spend some time studying things like the Passover in Egypt and why that was significant that Jesus had the Passover supper with his friends. You have to understand the writings of 2nd Isaiah, 40 through 66. And it starts talking about a suffering servant, as someone who will be appointed to bear the iniquity of all the sins of Jerusalem and Judea and all the sins of the world. You have to understand that, how God has been working through the generations. That's why the birth narratives are so important, where Matthew says, hey, this is how the birth of Jesus came to be. And he talks about these guys was this guy's father, this guy was this guy's father. The begats, because in the King James it says, this guy begat another guy. This guy was a father of. And it comes all the way down to Joseph, all the way down to Jesus, because Matthew wanted you to know that God's been working all through this. Jesus didn't just appear. It was in the fullness of time. When everything God had been working on was ready, then Jesus came. So to understand that resurrection, you've got to understand the life of Jesus. You've got to understand the birth of Jesus, and you have to understand all the history that came before him. Now you can hold the Easter story in its context. And from there, you can begin to understand how God will move into the future. Wow. That's a lot to get done in the next 60 seconds, isn't it? So start with Genesis, go all the way to the end of the Gospels. Hear the story of God's saving his people. You need to get started. That's a lot to cover. I'll see you tomorrow.